CEO of the Construction Education and Training Authority, Malusi Shezi, has sparked controversy with his plans for an extended overseas trip for his board members, drawing criticism as wasteful and unnecessary expenditure, according to documents reviewed by the City Press. This government agency, which is responsible for skills development programs, has already spent 4 million rand on flights, car hire, accommodation and facilitator fees. The CETA has rubbished these allegations, but for more on this, we are now joined by the CETA's chairperson, Thabo Masombuka, who's joining us in studio, and joining us virtually is Nehawu's Gauteng Regional Deputy Secretary, Tumisho Madihlaba. Thank you so much for making time for us. Thabo, let's start off with you. The CETA's response to these allegations of around 4 million rand that has already been spent on this trip.
Thank you very much, Aldrin, and good morning to your viewers and the listeners at home. Let me first take this opportunity to dispute and refute allegations contained in that scathing article in the City Press that CETA is in the process or has already spent the amounts that you have mentioned. First, the trip has not yet been undertaken. The trip, which is an international benchmarking process by the organization, is part of an ongoing program implementation by the organization to compare with various institutions outside South Africa and reposition the work of CETA in relation to the program innovations that we're implementing. So, but I need to give a bit of context here so that viewers understand what is at play here. Because this article is just but a tip of a broader issues.
Okay, before we move over to the other issues, the context that you want to give. Yes, the trip hasn't happened as yet, but 4 million rand has been spent. Is that true?
No, that's incorrect. How do you spend a 4 million rand in a trip that hasn't taken place? So what we've asked, when a submission is brought to the board for approval, it must come with a motivation in the submission, which outlines the value proposition in that exercise. So what you does, management bring a submission and does what is called a comparative analysis. If we were to undertake such an activity, these are the financial implications, this is a value to the organization, and these are the implications. And so what has been leaked to the media is part of a broader submission that management has brought to the organization, to the accounting authority, which is the highest decision-making body, to consider, and it has not been implemented. And the fact that
it hasn't been implemented.
And I saw the article, the fact that 250,000 rand is going to be or has been paid to board members for participating in the trip is utter nonsense.
That's not true. Okay, so the submission that was made to the board, how much is the value of this trip?
There are various options. Because the value of any international activity is based first on the currency of that particular country, destination, it's based on the choice of airline, it's based on the route and options that you take,
but
it's based on the accommodation
in the presentation,
and all sorts of things.
what was the monetary value of the trips?
There are options.
Or the packages.
There are options. There are options. I don't know if 4 million is an exact figure. At the last check, we said to the CEO, we need to present us a best model that is based on a best financial mechanism for you to be able to achieve
What's
that
the amount? What's the range?
I am not privy of a specific amount now, but it's definitely not 4 million.
But you know it's
definitely
not 4 million.
I can tell you that.
Let me just quickly bring in Tumisho into the conversation. Tumisho, thank you so much for making time for us. Just your response to what the board chairperson has to say here, and also that the 4 million rand hasn't been spent, but this was a proposal that was brought before the board and a presentation has been made.
Well, thanks once again, and good morning to Newzroom Afrika viewers. Aldrin, I'm not sure if it's even a matter that the board should be, why is it that it's the board planning to travel? By what the chair has just said now, it's an operational matter. Whose responsibility is it to benchmark? And to sort of go and check how our international peers are doing. That's not the work of the board. Whether it's 4 million or less, millions, the plan is there to have the board travel, which makes you wonder is the board now involved in operational matters of the entity? And why is there so much interest in the board going out to benchmark? This is a waste of government resources, and we are pushing back on it. It cannot be correct. If there is really a need which the board needs to rely on to approve this, it has to be for the people that are running the entity. The board is overseeing. The authority has to make sure that money is not spent unwisely. And our response is that this is not necessary. This is a waste of government resources.
So you think even as the accounting authority, this is not necessary?
It's not necessary unless it's operational activities related to the people that perform the actual work at the entity, not the board.
So Thabo, just your quick response to that?
Yeah, look, every institution is run in various forms. Particularly, it's true that the responsibility to implement programs and to manage programs is the responsibility of executive management and the people that are employed. But there's also a responsibility to do what is called key strategic stakeholder engagement. That's the responsibility of an accounting authority. That's the responsibility of the board. And if you look at the key focus areas in this particular exercise, it's not a jolly ride. It's part of a broader key strategic international benchmark which is aimed at benefiting and enhancing the capacity of an organization to be able to align itself with new training innovations.
Let's quickly deal with other issues that have been raised. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. The CEO and the allegations of interference when it comes to these supply chain management of the CETA. Have you investigated any of these allegations? The one that came from, is it Mputing, as well as the one that has come from the former CFO?
Correct. Now, yes, I think that's where the context is.
Yeah.
That's the important part of the context because anything and everything else flows from that. The allegations that the CEO has interfered and put his hands in procurement processes are allegations that relate to transactions that happened 2018, 19, 20, when the institution was still under administration. And it's important, Adrian, for viewers to know that those transactions are at the center of a current disciplinary hearing that is taking place. Some employees at supply chain are at the center. They have to respond to those allegations. So when we receive an email from one of the implicated employees, she was actually writing to us to say, Board, I'm bringing this to your attention. I'm not asking you to do anything, but I'm telling you that the CEO is doing 1, 2, 3. And when we look at those transactions related to the time when the institution was still there. And it was brought to our attention that those transactions are at the core of that disciplinary hearing.
Sure,
we then said to the union, the union writing to us demanding that because of this implication or because of this allegation, board, please suspend the CEO immediately. We then say, hold on. You don't just suspend a CEO on the mere allegations. What do? You institute a process, right? We then immediately had a special session of an in-committee of the board. That was sometime on Wednesday last week. And then we deliberated on this. We said on the face of these allegations, they're serious in nature. They have an implication of rendering the reputation of the institution into disrepute. We wrote to the CEO and said, CEO, within 7 days, please provide reasons to give credence or to dispute this allegation so that we're able to then move to the next step. And what is the next step? Once a detailed response has been provided by the CEO, we will then do an assessment as an accounting authority to determine on the face of this response whether or not there's merit to institute a further investigation. It's a process.
So you're still within that 7 days?
We're still within that 7 days.
So you haven't received the letters yet from the CEO?
No, we haven't
received the response. Let me
yes.
ask you this before I quickly go back to Tumisho. Hani resigned on the 20th of February 2024.
Correct.
So that means that as it stands to date, you haven't dealt with the issues that Hani raised in that resignation letter.
Hani Nchangase is a former CFO of CETA. She resigned, and in her resignation letter, she writes the things that she has written there. What do we do as a board? Do we sit down and fold our arms? No. We ask the board secretary to contact Ms. Nchangase and say, Ms. Nchangase, the allegations in your resignation letter are very serious. Please come and engage with the board and explain and give substance to these allegations, because we don't know how you interact with the CEO. I personally make a call to Ms. Njangase and say, if you feel that writing letters and emails may not be comfortable for you, let's have coffee. I'm the head of this accounting authority. Talk to me and explain what could be done. She says to me, yes, Chair, I'll come back to you. I'm in KZN, I'm home. She never does.
So fair to say that you didn't investigate these allegations? But they haven't been dealt with this year? Yes,
you investigate on the basis of a substantive motivation that's given. If an allegation is made, Adrian, against you or anyone else, you can't make an allegation on the basis and strength of a one-page letter. You need to be called in to clearly explain that on such a date, on such and such circumstances, this and this happened.
Is that the same formula that you follow when it comes to anonymous tip-offs?
Look, there's a framework to deal with hotlines.
But why can't you use that same formula?
But that's not a whistleblowing. That's an ex-employee resigning. A senior employee, Adrian, who says, I can't work in this organization any longer because of 1, 2, 3. But that's all in a one-page letter. We then reach out as the board. We say, come and explain to us in more detail. Does she take up the opportunity? No. What does she do? She goes and distributes the letter in the media and obviously draw that public outcry and create an impression that there's a crisis.
Tumisho, let's quickly hear from you. Now you hear that the board has written to the CEO and waiting for his response to these allegations.
Yes, so Aldrin, the board talks about the letter from the union having, they're responding to us saying from the 4th, they've given the CEO 7 days. And you've just put it to the chair that actually same allegations came up 4 months ago. And at that point, they did nothing. They've not investigated. But let's talk about consistency, Aldrin. This is the same CEO that suspends, is just on the rampage. There is one little allegation on a member of Nehawu. That person is sent home for 3 months. Masombuka has been sitting at home for a year at least. And the entity responds and say, no, we've now kicked off the disciplinary processes. We don't have a problem with the employer taking action where there is suspicion of misconduct. All we are requesting as a union is, can you be consistent? I mean, how is the board planning to get to the bottom of this with the CEO at the center, actively involved?
But Tumisho, he does say that now there's the letter that has been sent to the CEO, and based on the CEO's response, I guess, Thabo, that means that then you'll decide what happens next.
Nehawu should be the biggest custodians of worker rights. And at the center of worker rights is what is called lawful process, in line with the constitutional provisions. We cannot be in the business of willy-nilly suspending people. But let me, as a final shot, Adrian, give context to this again. The fact that the employee in question that Tumisho has mentioned has been undergoing suspension, part of the reason, and by and large and in the main, we are made to believe that she's been responsible for the process dragging, not attending sessions, giving sick notes, postponing and asking for postponements, and all those are within the legal framework of every individual who's charged. But we want to bring this matter to its logical conclusion.
Why don't you block her pension?
Adrian, we are an accounting authority that operates within the framework of the law. All that we need to do is to await the outcomes of the process. Our responsibility is not just to be consistent, as the Nehawu spokesperson or person is saying, but our responsibility is to ensure that we implement the policies of the organization fairly and squarely, without any fear or favor.
Finally, is the trip still happening?
We are going to have to do an assessment. We need to get the final report from executive management on what the implications and what the impact of this is. About impact. It's about the work of CETA. By the way, Adrian, there's a lot of good work happening in that organization. But when we invite the media, especially the sponsor of this Sunday Time, this City Press article, he was provided an opportunity to inspect document to an extent to show that the people who are making these allegations have doctored and falsified information. Did he take up that opportunity? No. So we will invite the media and our stakeholders to show them the progress of the work that is happening at CETA. Because this international benchmarking exercise is part of a broader program that is being implemented. It was not planned yesterday. It was not planned last week. It has been part of an ongoing process. And for that purpose, we remain steadfast steadfastly committed.
Okay, what's the deadline for the CEO to respond? Sorry, just
Sorry, it's 7 days from the date of writing. That's probably next week, Wednesday. This week Wednesday.
This week, Wednesday.
Thank you
so
very
much for your time.
It's my pleasure.
That was the CETA chairperson, Thabo Masombuka, as well as Nehawu's Gauteng Regional Secretary, Tumisho Madihlaba.